Welcome, friends, to Sanctuary Online on this May 11th evening, a couple days after Mother's Day. And so we are taking the opportunity to celebrate some special mothers, Annie and all of our special mothers, tonight with some photographs and some stories and an interview of one of my favorite mothers. Get it? Okay, it's my mother. Okay. And mom comes on to so many of my Zooms. She knows most of my business colleagues. They all know her. If I'm on late at night, she sneaks around the corner here with a couple dog treats for my dogs so that she can escape to her bedroom safely. So Mom, we just thought it'd be a really interesting time to take an opportunity to interview you, and you're 92 years young, that you might have some great stories, but also maybe a few bits of advice. So let me jump in with my screen share. Welcome everybody here. I think everyone's been here before, so good to see you. And one of the things we do always is we open our chat box, and you can toss your name and where you're calling in from tonight. And if we don't have your cell phone number and you put your cell phone number in the chat box, we will text you on Tuesday afternoon to remind you that it's Tuesday afternoon and to know what's coming up on Sanctuary Online for the evening. So happy to do that, happy to welcome all of you, and we're looking forward to some amazing stories tonight. Before we do that though, always want to say thank you, or to let you know what's coming up. Many of you know we have a new series on Sanctuary Online. It's called Meet the Artist. Last month we had one of, again, my favorite artists. Edie was just amazing. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, Edie, you got some amazing stories of your work, and I hope you got some commissionable work out of that as well. I know we're looking for a little bit of that from you after spending the evening with you and seeing all your great work. Next week we have oil painter Jason Hanisch, and he's done some work for us at Sanctuary, and I just can't wait to see that experience. And then our May book conversation is The Four Winds. So if you have not started reading yet, there's plenty of time on May 25th to come down to The Four Winds. And last week, if you were here it was a combined Arbor Day, Earth Day, and Bud Twilly was amazing, giving us so much advice on different things around how to plant a Texas plant that will survive maybe a new climate, a little chillier climate than we're used to down there. But also folks were asking him questions all over the place, different things to do for landscaping, and Bud was able to give us loads and loads of information. So tonight is Happy Mother's Day at Sanctuary Online. And I have a couple of little pictures of my mom, and then Cheryl, I'm going to let you pop in, and you guys, you know what, maybe I'll do this. Maybe you start a question or two, and let me do a little tiny introduction. But this is my family's very much a golfing family, and there's a beautiful golf course called Arcadia Bluffs up in northern Michigan, and you're seeing that sunset, and that golf course is right on the cliff of Lake Michigan, and it is one of the most stunning views all over the golf course. And I don't know if you remember, Mom, do you remember what you had for dinner that night? I'll do you a quiz. We went up and we enjoyed the golf course, but then they have an amazing meal there. Ann, you were there that night. Linda, I think too. Remember what Mom had?
She remembers.
I remember it.
What'd you have?
Well, I don't know what I ate. Oh. Whatever went on my plate.
You had chicken and waffles.
Oh, chicken and waffles.
Isn't that cool? I have a great picture of you that I didn't put up here. And it's with you having some chicken and waffles. But pardon?
It must have been good.
It was. You and Dougie there's just some great photos of you eating, probably the first time maybe the last time you've ever had chicken and waffles, but I don't know why you ordered them, but it was a great night. So Cheryl, you are in interview mode. So why don't you take it away? And occasionally people want to pop up. I know, Kristen, you've got to jump off in about a half an hour, 20 minutes, right? So we'll get to your story first. Cheryl, make sure you have time, because Kristen and her mother have quite an amazing tradition on their Mother's Day. All yours, honey.
Okay. Well, we can interrupt what we're doing and jump in there, because I don't want to miss that. Okay. So,
absolutely.
And if I get distracted because Mom's stories are too interesting, you guys just jump in there and remind me. Okay. Kristen, make sure. So we want to start kind of at the beginning with Mom, because she has a very interesting beginning to her life. And especially since there's quite a few Canadians on here, they'll be interested to know this. And you were born on a farm in Desborough, Ontario, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so what can you tell us about that farm?
It was a 500-acre farm. We
Oh,
had sugar bush, which took over maybe half the farm. And we made the syrup and whatnot all every spring. And I remember the evaporator house, we'd go down and we'd be able to, we kids at that time where I was quite small, would go out with a dipper and we'd get some syrup and take it out and sit in the cold and let it get a little bit so that we could taste it. So, and that was always what I remembered about the syrup. But it was, we had a big farm, we had cows and horses and chickens and turkeys and all the rest of that stuff, you know. But I was quite young when I left the farm. And then when we left the farm, we came into Kincardine, Ontario, which was 7 acres. And we did have a big garden and we had chickens and we had goats and a little bit of everything, but not much more gardening stuff than anything. And it was a lot of work. But I didn't realize until I read my mother's diary, which she kept for years and years, 5 years at a time, just how much work farm is. She would go to the church meetings, and before she'd go, she'd be baking cookies and making cakes and peeling potatoes. And I don't know how they did it all. I really don't. Besides chasing 5 of us kids. I don't know. She did have help at times, but I don't know. We kids must have been driving her crazy. But it was a lot of fun. And then from there, I went.
Hold on a minute. I want to ask you a question about that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. When you moved there from Desborough to Kincardine, you and your dad and your other sisters and your little brother went in. You went in a car, right?
In a car, and they're about 50 miles apart or 55 miles, something like that apart. And by the time we got what we could loaded into an old car, Dad's, we didn't have any room for Mother because Mother had. All right, Judy. Mother had a cow, a horse, and a buggy. And we didn't have money to rent a U-Haul or anything like that. We just had to do the best we could. So my older brother at that time would have been between 14 and 15. And he and mother in the buggy and horse and a cow on the side of the road did that 50 miles on foot. One taking a turn with the other to go that 50 miles. By the time we got there, I do remember going into this place. We had no idea, we kids, as I say, had no idea what we were going to. We were just moving. And we had everything packed to the hilt. So in this old car, Dad's. Now remember spilling syrup on something because of course we had maple syrup. So we had all this syrup and it is sticky. And it was over everything. So when we got there, got in the house, Mother and Jack didn't get there for another day. I guess they were coming the next day. We hoped they were anyway. And I just remember it being so sticky, everything so sticky when we got there. I can't remember much about the house. I was maybe 6 or 7 at that time. And so it was things sometimes you hear a lot and it can almost be there. And so it was kind of a trying time, I guess, for Mom and Dad, you know.
But you made it to Kincardine.
We made it to Kincardine.
Now, even though that wasn't the big farm, it still was quite a few acres, and you had a big garden, right?
In Kincardine, we had
right.
It was 7 acres in Kincardine, And we bought this house, and it was what they call on the river bottom. And so in the spring, the river would come up quite close to the house. In fact, it would cover the road in times. And reading Mom's diaries just now, I read where in one spring, I think it was in 55, the water came up over the road that we had to go to get to school. And so we kids had to go up over a hill and onto the main road to walk to school. So, and the river that I'm talking about, it's called the Penetango River, and it flows right into the harbor that goes right into Kincardine, right on the beach of Lake Huron. So it was quite a wide river. Today, it's like a trickle, you know. It's just amazing how small it is. You don't even realize it's there. But we kids swam in that river, and we fished in the river, and we skated in the river. We played hockey on the river, and there was always a gang of kids. There were kids all over the place in those days. And they were fun. We all had fun. And of course, we all had to come in and go home when the lights went on. Because we weren't next door to neighbors like we are today. We were quite a little piece from one another. But that street light on the corner was always the one we had to look for. And that street light, come on, you came home.
So when you had all those vegetables that you grew there.
Oh, yeah.
Did you eat them all, your
Oh,
family?
no, we didn't eat them all. Shirley and I, in particular, every Saturday, I guess it was Fridays, we'd do it. Mother and all of us would go up to the garden. We had to go up a hill to the garden. We grew a lot of everything the farmers grow: tomatoes, cabbage, onions, carrots, melons, everything, corn. We kids would go and clean a lot of these vegetables every Friday after school, and when even the summer really. And Dad would take us in his old car, and we go down. We had nice baskets, six quart baskets. I don't even know if they have those today, but 6 quart baskets full of cleaned vegetables, all bunched in bunches. And so we'd take them to the cottages, which were people that came and spent the summers at the cottages. They didn't, at that time, there were very few permanent people there. But anyway, we'd take them and we would sell all these 10 cents a bunch or 5 cents a bunch or whatever. And it was an all-day Saturday deal. We'd unload the truck, go back, get more, and Shirley and I would do more and more. When we were all finished, we were tired of running, and we got an ice cream cone for doing that on Saturdays. I don't know how much money anybody made,
but you got an ice cream cone.
We got an ice cream cone for that. And at that time, an ice cream cone was 5 cents.
Yeah. Well, I know Janet's been sending you some of these diary things, right?
Yes.
From your mom. And I know when she's been reading them, we get to hear some of the stories as we're going along. And one of them that caught my attention was her mom said, "Today I drew 6 chickens." And I'm like, "Mom, what does that mean? I drew 6 chickens, And so what does it mean?
Well, reading the diary, it brings to mind that Mom and Dad always had an open kitchen. Nobody ever was turned away from her kitchen. And in my Dad's family, there were 11 kids. Mother's, there was only 2. But anyway, they were close enough that every weekend or every other weekend, there was somebody for dinner, somebody here and somebody there, and a bunch of kids always running around. And the kitchen was a great big oak table, and with these great big pillared feet on it. Would draw out, and I don't think they could ever make it big enough. But anyway, people would come and go. And this particular day that Mother's reading about, she knew she was having company. So she said, "Well, what are we going to have? It's going to be a bunch of us, So, and I say a bunch, it's going to be 18, 20 of us there. So we go out, and she is figuring out what she's going to eat for dinner. So she heads out to the barn, and she gets how many chickens?
6.
6 chickens. And she politely goes, put the water on. No, when you do kill chickens, you got to pluck them. So she gets the water on the stove in the summer kitchen, and it's boiling water. She goes out, she chops the head off the chicken, sticks it in the boiling water, hangs it up, the feathers come down off it, and she draws the chicken, meaning she guts the chicken. So that's all done, and she does this for 6 chickens, and we're eating them for supper. She likely did that on Saturday morning. So it's just one of those words you use that you don't know really what the meaning is, but she would go out and draw the chickens.
But it was fascinating to me is I didn't know that you do the boiling water and you drop the chicken in it and the feathers come off, so you don't have to pluck them all.
Well, you have to pluck a certain amount of them off, but you don't pick the pin feathers out, as you say.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So most of them go. All right. Tell us about school.
Hold on, Cheryl.
What?
I'm just wondering if it's 8:22. I want to make sure we get a chance for
Kristen.
Kristen's story here. Okay.
Jump in here and tell us your story, because then I want Mom to tell us about when she went to school. So okay.
All right. So Kristen, I'm going to share the photo, and
you built this up so much now. I want it.
well, I thought it was a good story.
It is. It's a great story.
So this is me and my mom, Jerry, and this picture, what did I say? It's from 2016, so a little while ago. But neither my sister nor I have had any children. So Mother's Day has taken on a bit of a different meaning over the years. We don't have kids underfoot. My mother has unfortunately not been made a grandmother. But at least 15 years ago, right before Mother's Day, my sister and I discussed what we were going to get my mom, and we decided she really likes margaritas. So we were going to get her a full set of glasses and some mix and maybe like the salt rimmer and the various accoutrements. And so we go ahead and do that. And it was like a week or two before Mother's Day, or that dinner at my parents' house. My sister and I are both there. And my dad's like, psst, 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 come here. I want to tell you what I got Mom for Mother's Day. It's going to be great. And he pulls us aside and he's like, look, takes us down in the garage, and he bought her a full set of margarita glasses and a new blender and a pitcher of like a mix and the whole thing. And I was like, well, I guess we're having a margarita Mother's Day. So he thinks it's hysterical. He's like, oh, should I return it? And I was like, no, you can never have enough margarita makings. So that was more than 15 years ago. And every year we have Margarita Mother's Day. This picture is in the back deck, these pictures, my parents' old house. Before dinner, my dad would grill, but we just have, chips and salsa and whatnot for our appetizers with our margaritas. And probably one of the highlights then was like at least a decade ago now, my sister had already moved out to Las Vegas area where she lives now. I'm in New Jersey. My parents were still in Jersey. My mom went out to visit. I went out to visit. We were there for Mother's Day. We made a dinner reservation, but we were like, well, we'll have our Margarita Mother's Day drink before we go to dinner. We ended up canceling the dinner reservation because my mom and my sister and I all got a little bit tipsy. And I think we ate a box of crackers for dinner that night and took my mom out the next day. So we have Margarita Mother's Day. This year I was not with my mom. She and my dad are in Las Vegas area near my sister. They moved a few years ago. But my sister was there, and I called and I confirmed they were having margaritas before dinner. So there's some alliteration, and that's how we have our good time. So my mom and I have margaritas.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's amazing, Kristen. That's a really cool story. Oh, would you like to have a margarita for your Mother's Day?
How do you mix that with Adam's ale?
Oh,
Mom's not much of a drinker, but she is an airplane. I think this is the next picture here. Mom, again, this is a part of our family, our a flying family. And my mom has been, I think, the co-pilot for what, Mom? Hundreds or thousands maybe of hours and thousands of miles.
Every time the plane went up, pretty near I was in it.
So that's how we got back and forth to Canada as kids all the time. We had an airplane that actually had a roof. This one doesn't, and had 4 seats. And so we would go back and forth to Canada. But my dad then was able to build a second love of his life, an open cockpit biplane. So you never flew in that one, Mom, but you still own that one for some reason that we won't get you on tonight because you're not happy about that. And then my little brother built an airplane with my father, and there's my mom in the back of it. So I think you were going over to Canada, right, Mom? Doug was flying you over in Canada again, right?
Yeah, I went over. That was
Absolutely.
my sister had passed away, and I said, I'll get over there as fast as I can. Doug's phone, and he says, Mom, if you're ready at 5 o'clock, I'll pick you up at 6. I was okay, and we took off. So
There's
at
not much faster than an airplane, right?
6 o'clock we left, and we were there before dark, or just at dark. And, which it takes us 6.5 hours to drive.
Yeah. So you were there just in time for margaritas.
Oh, they didn't serve those, I'm sorry. we're not much of a drinking family.
We're not much
Tom
of
and
a
Ken.
drinking. Is that Edie? Would you say something?
I
Oh,
said,
that was-
there's Tom and Ken.
There's Tom and Ken. Mom visited Sanctuary a couple Thanksgivings ago. And that's, I think, the Thanksmas tree up behind you, Mom. And we went to Lady Bird Johnson to all the flowers. Remember that? And
Yes.
walked around. And then Anne, this is Gov, which is Miles' sister, right? Gov came from Northern Michigan. And other members of our family, Anne and her daughter, Hannah, actually own or are the mamas of Gov's brother. So, all right, Cheryl, let's do one more story from somebody. Hold on. Who's the first story besides Kristen? Barb Crabtree. Where's Barb Crabtree? Barb is stuck in Florida.
I am on mute, and yes, I am stuck in Florida until the gas lines go down a little bit. So keep your fingers crossed for me, and I'll keep you posted.
There you go. There's a nice picture of your mom, right, Barb?
Yeah, this picture, my mother was born in 1920, and her birthday is May 14th. So at the end of this week, Mom would have turned 101.
Wow.
She was born 3 months before women could vote in the United States. And she died 2 years ago, just before she turned 99.
Wow.
And so she saw a lot in her long life. This picture was taken at her grandson's wedding. And we never thought this kid would date the same person twice, much less ever get married, but he did. And he's married to a beautiful woman who came to the United States from Spain, and they wanted to get married in Spain. So he came to the house and he said, "Now, Grandma, I don't know, whether you're going to appreciate this or not, but Maria and I would like for you to come to our wedding." And Mom said, "Well, Alex, I'm coming to your wedding." And he said, "Well, before you commit to it, it's going to be in Spain." So my mother had never been anywhere outside of the country except for Niagara Falls. And
Wow.
so she said, "Well, Alex, I just told you I'm coming to your wedding." So she did. And this picture was taken, she was 85 years old and went to her grandson's wedding in Spain.
Oh,
Wow.
phenomenal. Phenomenal. Thanks, Barb. Cheryl, back to you and Granny.
All right. Well, the thing is, I think, Mom, you told me you quit school.
Well, yes, kind of. I never did quit learning, but I did quit school. I went through school.
I love that line.
In Canada, they don't have grades, they have forms. So you have first form, second form, third form, and that's our high school. So anyway, I was going into the third form. I'd gone through first and I finished second, and you have to learn in second at that time. You had to have two languages. So I had English and French. Well, then they put me on to third form. Now I need another language, and they gave me Latin. Well, I had no notion to what Latin was. When would I ever use Latin? I was not in the Anglican church, which is our high Anglican here, I guess. But anyway, my mother and dad weren't well educated. My dad was in the service, went in the First World War. And mother only and I don't know how far dad went in school, I guess just till he graduated in junior school, or what do you call it?
Junior high?
Junior high, even whatever. Anyway, my mother had only had 2 years in school because she had to quit school and run the farm. So anyway, what was I going to tell you? Dad told us, because when we were kids, he says, now look, he says, I don't want you ever to come home here and ask us to do your homework, because neither one of us have had any schooling. Don't come home here until you understand your teacher. What she's telling you, she's there to tell you and to teach you. Well, my dad was quite firm. And he told us, you know, don't ever come home. So we didn't. But this one day I came home just a balling up a storm. And I had to cross town from high school to home. And so I come home and I was very upset, just a crying. And Dad says, what's the matter? I says, well, I just asked Miss Norman, I think she was. I don't think she was married, but she's a very little woman, and she must have taught for 50 years or more at the school, because she knew everybody. But she had telling me what to do or how to understand something in Latin. Well, I got a thick head and I could not understand this. So I asked her why. And she came down with an ink bottle on her desk, and it went all over the place. And so then she was really mad. She was upset. Now she had a mess to clean up. And I just left the school and I come home and I told Dad I wasn't going to go back. So I wasn't. So at that time, I was going on to 15 years old, and we had been friendly, very friendly with our pastor. I did church going all the time. And the pastor and his wife and myself and Mom had been working with the Girl Guides. So she and I the pastor's wife and I were very good friends. And she said, well, Mary, what do you want out of school? I said, well, I want to be a secretary. I wanted to do something different. I don't know what I want to do, but I didn't want to go to school anymore with her anyway. So that was the end of that. And I left home and went to live with the pastor's wife for a couple of years. And I went to night school and took shorthand and typing, which then, at that time, the big woolen mill in Canada was the biggest woolen mill in the country. And they were soliciting for girls to work in the woolen mill, weaving, not so much in the weaving, but in the combing and everything of the material for the services. And so I went into work just thinking I couldn't get into the office because I had no secretary training in any kind. So I was planning on working in the factory until I could get into school. So I went to work in the factory, and when I went to go into the office, I found out I was making more money at the factory than I could in an office. And I wore coveralls like you see painters wearing, you know, into work. If I went to the office, I had to buy nylons, which were very, very expensive in those days, and dresses and clothes. I didn't have clothes like that to wear. So I ended up staying in the factory. To this day, I can't type or take shorthand very well.
However, you did go to night school.
I did go to night school.
And what happened because of that?
Well, I went to, you're starting all the way home, our story. we started to go to night school, and in Hespeler, where I went in the pastor's house, he had been our pastor for about 15 years in Kincardine. And now I'm going to Hespeler to live and to work. And so to go to school, I had to take the streetcar from Hespeler to Preston and change at Preston to go to Galt. Well, at that time, Doug was taking the streetcar at Preston, or at Hespeler, taking the streetcar and changing it at Preston. He was going the opposite direction to Kitchener. So now he's going one way and I'm going another. We have both of us, I don't know, 10, 15-minute wait on the exchange for the streetcars. So we start talking to one another and whatnot. We got quite friendly. And pretty soon, why do we go to school? What are you going to school for? You don't really have to go to school and do this. Pretty soon we were cheating at the end of the 2-year time. We didn't go to school. We just went to a movie or something. That was more fun. Anyway, 2 years later, we're engaged, or 2 years later, I guess we're engaged and married. And it lasted for 65 years before his passing.
That's very
No.
cool.
Cheryl, let me grab a shot of that real quick.
Half of these kids have heard all these stories before.
Half of us have and half of us haven't, Mom. So hold on here. Here's the guy she was talking about.
That's
So-
it.
I live way over here across the street and I haven't heard that one yet, Mom.
So this is it, Mom. This is at your wedding, and this is at our wedding. Remember,
That's
this is at our wedding reception. Yeah. So some great pictures.
I recognize the windows behind them.
The church windows
There you go. From the church. Yeah.
up in
Yeah.
Toronto. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you got married in your Doug's mom's house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We got married on what we always have called Good Thursday, because we didn't have any money. At that time, I was maybe bringing home $6 a week, and I don't know, Doug was still in an apprenticeship where he was making 50 cents an hour. So we didn't, being it was Good Thursday, I'm assuming that the church was full. I really don't know. But anyway, we got married in Doug's living room, Doug's folks' living room. And we had, I'm going to say 25 to 30 people there. We had a good wedding, a good day, beautiful day, sun shining, and just like spring. I mean, it was really nice. So now what was I going to tell
Well,
you?
what'd you do? So you got married on Thursday
Oh,
and then you went for your honeymoon, right?
okay,
So
yeah.
tell us about that.
So we went, Doug's brother and his girlfriend at that time drove us from Hespeler up to Guelph so that we could catch a train the next morning to get to my hometown, Kincardine, because Mom and Dad could not make the wedding. I had my aunts from Detroit, or from Toronto, 2 aunts from Toronto and one from Galt that were at the wedding. And then my brother-in-law and my sister and others around working. But what else? Well, anyway, we got up and we spent the night in Galt, in Guelph. And the funny part of that was Doug and I had never stayed at a hotel before, but we got up in the hotel and we looked out the windows and there were 2 big bottles of something on the windowsill. And as we looked out the window, there was a big band shell below the window, I guess from the bar at the hotel. And Doug dropped those bottles out the window, and then we turned the lights off quick before they catch us. So we got up the next morning at early. We had to catch the train to go up to Kincardine to Mom and Dad's for our honeymoon. And we got up and went to what else was I going to say on that?
Well, you told me you got there, but the reason you got married then was because you could have the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday, and then you had to go home on the Easter Monday, right?
That's right. Okay, we always called it Good Thursday because it was the day before Good Friday. And in Canada, you get Monday off. So we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and come home Monday without missing any time because neither one of us had any money. And so anyway, we got up there and headed back on Monday real early in the morning. And I don't know what time the early train went out, but it was early. We got down halfway to Palmerston where the train changes. You have to wait at Palmerston. When we changed the train, they told us the train track was washed out with all the sun and the rain and everything from the day before or the weekend before. So there we were in Palmerston, which is nothing but a train stop, one big building where I guess the train men spent the night if they had to. And so we went into the hotel or building to get a room, and they said 2 rooms. And Doug says, no, 1 room. So I showed her my rings, and I says, no, we're married. Oh, she's the girl behind the counter, or the guy, I don't know which it was now, said, well, you can get those at any dime store. Oh, I thought I was a little bit peeved, you know? So I said, well, I do have my certificate, marriage certificate in my suitcase. Can I see it? So I had to show it. Now I'm 18 years old, so you'd think I'd be smart enough to carry that with me. Well, we hadn't just got it, and I wanted my mom and dad to see it. So I had taken it with me, thank goodness. But we got home the next day anyway. That's okay.
They gave you a room together then?
Oh yeah, they gave us 1 room.
Yeah, but you had to prove it.
We had to prove it.
All right. Well, so talking about mothers, what would you say is the one big thing that you learned from your mother?
Oh my goodness, she had the patience of Job. She was just so patient. I don't think I'd ever, or anyone had ever, seen my mother get really, really upset with anybody or anything. We kids would get in trouble, and Dad would be the firm one, you know, and he'd put his foot down on things like kids flicking food across the table at one another or doing something outside, you know, and he'd send us to bed for our room, you know, go to your room, can't behave, you go to your room. Mother would just be kind of winking at you, you know, go do what you're told. But pretty soon under her apron, she'd have a sandwich or a cookie or something. So before we got to sleep, we'd always have something to eat. So she was very, very patient with us. And we found out too that to love somebody, you don't always have to be hugging on them and kissing on them. Your love comes from inside. And you can love a lot of people without throwing your arms around and hugging. We weren't a very big hugging family. We more or less showed it in action rather than showing how much, you know, and it just seems to me that she had more patience with every one of us than I sometimes show around here. I don't know about what the kids think, but that's all about.
Mom and Cheryl and Janet, are you still on there? I'm gonna say, I wonder, Janet, are you there?
I don't see Janet.
Yeah, I'm here, but I have my video off because of the internet.
Because we have terribly crappy internet up where you live, right?
I do, unfortunately.
Here's a picture of someone else that maybe her mother also taught her patience. I don't know. What do you think, Janet?
Yeah, I have to agree.
Mom, who is that?
Pardon?
Who's that?
That's Shirley, my sister.
Your sister and your best friend?
Yeah, she was just a year and a half younger than I am. But she's not with us now, but we think of her a lot.
But before she died, you guys talked on the face phone all the time, right?
Yes, we got the face phone and we talked just about every other day, or wondering what each had for supper. I was alone and she was alone, and we just, you know, just like as if she was next door, only we couldn't get out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
anything to add?
Pardon?
I was just typing that there are 2 peas in a pod. We've often said it and we all know it.
Well, you got Janice and Janet both there, so they know what I'm saying.
Yep. It was funny. I'll never forget Aunt Shirley, Mom, whenever I was, wherever I was in the world with the Marine Corps, and I get a letter, and I was hoping it was from this person or that person. It was always from Aunt Shirley. And she had the exact same cursive writing as you. You could not tell. I don't know if you do that, Janice or Janet, the exact same writing, Mom, as you and Shirley. You talk about 2 peas in the pod, 100%.
Well, we went to the same school, you know.
That made a difference.
all right. Let me ask you about what kind of advice you would give. Rachel, Joe's and my daughter, came and surprised us for Mother's Day. She drove from Indianapolis. She drove up here and she surprised us for Mother's Day. And so we sat here at the table talking, and I said, so what advice would you give Rachel? Do you remember what you said? What advice you gave her?
I don't really know. I don't know. What did I say? Give me a hint.
No, you told her about her mouth to watch.
Oh, I said, you know, and I've told this to, I think, all my kids when they got married or before they got married. Told them, I said, you know what? Don't ever open your mouth and say something that you can't take back, because you can never take it back once it's out there. So I just remember that, you know, you don't talk bad about people, because they might forget, but you're not going to forget. You're going to remember that you said it, and the other person may forget and forgive, but never really forget. You cannot take something back that you've already put out there. And so I've kind of lived by that myself. I've tried to. Mind you, it's hard.
It is hard.
You can't always do that. And especially in today's age, people, they blabber it. They blabber something and you think, what'd you say? What'd you say? You know? And you think, yeah, I heard him say something. I don't know what it was. I guess it's good I don't know. So it's just something to think about, especially young kids. You know, they get upset and they call her and they cuss and they this and that, and they can't ever take it back once it's said. So
Yep.
That's all I said to Rachel, I think.
Yeah, you told her that, and
Yeah.
she said a couple other things, but that's a good one.
Cheryl, you want to jump into a couple other folk stories?
Well, I want to say one more, if we can, and that is that this Mother's Day, Mike and Les brought you a sign.
Oh.
And they hung it on your porch, and it says, "This porch is my happy place." And wondered if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, I live on the porch. On the porch, you can sit out there and it's cold some days and some days it's too hot, but you still sit out there. And people come into my home, they never find me in here. I'm on the porch, I'm on the deck. It just seems like that's where home is. And we live out there. In the summer, I do not use my kitchen. We eat every meal outside. Everybody that comes outside. And you know, I got the squirrels, which drive me crazy. I got the pigeons now, they drive me crazy. I got a little chippy. I've had a little chippy every year. I don't know if I train him, but he comes and he eats out of my hand. Now this year I haven't got him because I got another little dog here. That dog likes to chase that little The little chippy's out there 2 or 3 times. I've seen him now, so I just haven't got close to him. And I don't want to get too close to him because I don't want the dog to hurt him. But, you know, if you watch the birds, I have wonderful birds, all kinds of birds. And you watch them and as they're running around, you're putting words in their heads and they're thinking, what are they doing? What are they saying? Where are they going? You know, if you could live like a bird, wouldn't it be wonderful just to get up and fly away sometimes? But yet you sit me on the deck. I call it a deck. They call it a porch. Anyway, you sit on the deck and there everybody comes. Nobody ever wants to come in the house. We just sit out there. Is that all right?
That's perfect. Mom.
Okay.
We've packed it when the family all come over, haven't we, Janice? We've packed it,
We're just
Janet,
on the deck.
and
Always, best part.
we probably had 30 people on that deck.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say, Mandy, Nita, you two have been on that deck, right? Come visit. Anybody else that comes through, absolutely, will get some deck time with Granny. Man, those are some fabulous stories, Mom. I know there's one you have left, Cheryl, but I think we'll leave that for the end. Okay, this some of the sayings, the Granny Bellisms, and yeah, we've got some great pictures and stories. So I'm just gonna pop up a few slides. And everyone doesn't have to tell a story if you don't want to at all. I just want to share some of the pictures that you sent in of your beautiful mamas. So Kay, are you on here somewhere, Kay?
I say.
Yep, I am.
Yeah, there's your mom, Frances.
Yes.
Promise.
I can't see.
Is there a story there, Kay, or you're just
Well,
you're
we
good with
have
that?
two of my cousins, well, two of my cousins and cousin-in-law. One of the cousins has a birthday in the same, like a day before my mom's birthday. And so we were at lunch at what looks to me like a antique store in the city near where the rest of them live. And so we were enjoying lunch. And it was actually the last time that I got to be with my mom, because 42 days later she passed away.
Wow.
And but she was the kind of person that was always connecting with family and friends. And there were a lot of people when we checked in at her service that talked about that they had just talked to her like the day or two before she passed, that she was always reaching out to people and sharing. And she was always a role model to me in terms of being hospitable and caring about other people.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Kay. It's a good thing. These are things, it's a good thing to, what do we learn from our moms, right? What were the lessons, or what are the great memories, right? Ken, your mama, it's a gorgeous picture. Who's she holding, that good looking baby?
Yeah, I wonder what happened to him. Yeah, I want to tell just a real quick story about my mother. My mother died young. She was only 52 years old. When she died, I was in seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, and I flew home and was able to be there for the last few days of her life. And her funeral was on a Saturday afternoon, and there were lots of people there I didn't know. And at the reception after the funeral, there were 6 old women sitting against the wall, looking very self-conscious, very country. They wear feed sack dresses. Some of you know what that means. And my aunt, my mother's sister, said they all came down out of the hills around Yazoo City, Mississippi, and that I was related to all of them some way. And she said, let me go over and introduce you to them. So we were going down the line, and she was introducing me, and this one old woman took my face in her hands like this and looked at me a long time. And then she said, yep, you're Squat's boy, all right. And that night, my Big Mama, my mother's mother, and I were looking through a box of old pictures. And I said, Big Mama, did that woman call me Squat today? And she told me this story about my mother that I'd never heard before. She said the summer that my mother was 5 years old, they lived way out in the country, and their closest neighbors were a couple of miles down the road. And they had 3 little girls close to my mother and her sister's age. And Big Mama said about once a week, Papa would hitch the mules to the wagon and go down there and bring those little girls back so they could all play together. And the youngest of those little girls was my mother's age, and she had a very serious heart disease. And she couldn't run and play like the other children, but Big Mama said the others would all run off and leave her, but your mother would stay right beside her all the time. And she said that little girl could only take about 10 steps, and then she would have to squat down to breathe and catch her breath. And she said, every time she squat down, your mother would squat down right beside her and stay right there with her. And then they'd stand up and walk a little ways, and then they'd both squat down again. And Big Mama said at the end of that summer, that little girl died. And she said for months after that, they'd look out the window and they'd see my mother, and she'd be walking across the yard, and every once in a while she'd just squat down and be very quiet and still for a few seconds. And then she'd stand up and go on. And she said that's how she got the nickname Squat, and that everybody called her Squat until she was in junior high school.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was so thankful that I heard that story because that's the only time I ever heard her called Squat, the only time I ever heard that story. But that just epitomizes my mother. To me, she was the most caring, loving person I've ever known.
Oh, man. Thank you, Ken. That's
Ken.
great. That's great. Oh, Jane Ann, I know you lost your mother just this year, right?
Yeah, it will be she would have been turned 93 April the 29th, and she passed away May 19th of 2020. And now she had a 12-year battle with Alzheimer's. So I have a video of her in 2018, and it was the first live video that she'd ever seen herself on video. And she was almost not vocal at that point, but she was able to say thank you to everyone for the cards and wishes. So that would have been in April. This is their anniversary, which was 69 years in July. And but for my whole life, everyone has always said I look like my mother. So when I get the opportunity to say, Joe, you look so much like your mother, I love those opportunities. But she was she is an incredible Christian lady, and she had an incredible prayer life. So the one thing I've kept of hers, which I'm having recovered for my condo, is her prayer chair, where she would sit every morning at 7:30. She was a teacher. She would pray down her entire list of kids. Everybody knew that she loved Jesus, and she was just a real example of prayer. And so she did every day that way. And she taught me how to pray, actually. Wow. So I just love that picture because we smile and our tongues are the same inside. There's some weird thing we do with our tongues when we smile. We have the same drooping eyelid on the same eye. I have the exact same wrinkles on my face now in the same place that she does. And so I know what I'm going to look like at 92. And, but I miss her. And I'll just say this, her favorite bird was the cardinal. And on her birthday, the dog and I were walking, and this cardinal came within 6 feet of me in the tree and started to sing. And I couldn't get my phone out fast enough to take a picture. Yeah. So we walked that path again 2 days ago on Sunday, which was Mother's Day. And it's the same bird. She's pregnant and she's sitting on a branch 4 feet away from me and singing. So I know my mom comes to me in that bird, and that was her favorite bird. 100%. And so I'm talking to the birds, and some guy walks by drives by on his bike and asks me if I'm okay. I said, yes, I'm just talking to the birds. But she would be laughing if she knew. But I do think she's visiting me and just letting me know that everything's okay. And she's in heaven singing with angels and praying out loud. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Jane Ann. Tom, I think this has been challenging for us today, getting a picture. I stole this picture off the internet, the one on the left. Tom and Darcel, right? Both of you. This is your mom. Eileen.
Can't talk. I'm on mute.
You're not on mute,
Can
Tom.
you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can all hear you, hon.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, oh, dear. Don't say
That's Mom and I when she was visiting us in Texas in front of a huge bluebonnet field.
Oh, yeah.
And the black and white is, I believe, right before she went into nurses training.
Amazing.
I'm not sure of the year.
There you go. Thanks, Tom. Darcel, anything about your mama?
I tell you what, she was a character, and I know Ken would back me up on that, but my Lord.
Good Lord, yes.
She was so much fun. She was just, I've got a picture of her somewhere doing her Sweet Baby Jane imitation. She was on all the time. She had a lot of problems for many years accepting Tom's and my relationship. But once she did, I was her other son. And as I said, my mother died young, and I was very proud to claim her as my mother those last few years of her life.
Well, if she was a character, then we know that Darcel, you and Tom come by it honestly, right? That's all fair.
That's right. Yes.
Absolutely,
Oh.
absolutely.
And we've had a weekend full of emotions of things like that. So I'm sure with Jeff on your mind and then your mom on your mind here, eh?
Yep, yep. It's my beautiful mama. She's been gone about 5 years now. Hard to believe. She looked that beautiful when she died 5 years ago. So
yeah,
miss her every day.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Anne is Granny Belle's
Daughter-in-law.
daughter-in-law. I'm trying to do math here. I'm like, okay.
I'll help you out, Joe.
I know we've seen you a few other
I'm
times.
Joe's sister-in-law.
Exactly.
And I know who you are.
And Linda's sister. That's why there's a little bit of cross-pollination. I figured if we went to Granny,
Janice's cousin-in-law.
Janice's cousin-in-law. Everybody. And once again, we've seen Shirley. I don't know, Janice or Janet, if you've got a story. I tell you what, watching my mother and her sister, I've got 1,000 pictures, or 1,000 memories, Mom, of you and Shirley. Janice, anything, or Janet?
You got me at a loss. There are no words.
I know.
I
There
can
is a
tell
great.
quick story of Aunt Shirley.
Are you gonna tell about the chair?
Well, I can.
No,
That
just.
There's so many stories.
There are many Shirley stories.
Aunt Shirley got a new chair. It was a power recliner. And Mom, I was living with Mom that year, and we all had video phones. So Mom and I got a call from Shirley. She wanted to show off her new chair. So she pushed the button and she goes, "Look at this, Mary." It just goes, and she's like this. If you can see my picture.
Yep.
And she completely disappeared, and she is still talking. And we're like, "Aunt Shirley, we can't see you." She goes, "Oh!" She started to panic because she couldn't get it to come back up. And I had to call Canada. Mom was doing the Eva cry that I call the Eva laugh. Her mother, she just makes no noise and her face is red. I was laughing so hard. I told Joan, I said, "My gosh, my gut hurts today thinking of how hard I laughed at that." I had to call my cousins in Canada to send them to rescue. And Shirley was stuck in her fancy chair.
And I would bet she was probably watching hockey and couldn't see the end of the game. So I think, did Paul have to break into her house?
She was truly panicked. I couldn't stop laughing, but I felt really bad for her. She was panicked.
But I think if I remember, didn't Paul have to break into her house to get
Paul
her?
did break in. Joan and John were on their way down there, but they couldn't get there in time. I said, "You got to call in somebody. She can't get up."
Oh my God.
What
a woman. What a woman. 1,000 stories, 1,000 stories.
But she called us. She beat everybody for our birthday. She called every one of us at dawn on our birthdays.
Absolutely.
We've had a lot of great memories with Aunt Shirley.
One of a kind.
Yeah.
Janice, you sent me a couple pictures here at the last minute, and I was able to sneak them into a slide.
Thank you. This is my mom on with my sisters.
Over here?
Yeah, we're very far apart. My middle sister, which is in the middle, is 7 years younger than me, and my younger sister is 13 years younger than me.
Wow.
But Mom always wanted to have several kids, so she kept trying. But she was a pretty remarkable woman, along with her sisters were as well. All four of them, and the four sisters were all that were in the family, and all four of them at some point or another in their lives owned their own business.
Wow.
And for that, she was born in 1924. So that gives you their pretty much age bracket, but they were much closer together. They were all about 2 years apart. And that was something very remarkable in our family because the women were all really pretty strong, including my grandmother and my great-grandmother. They pretty much ran the farms and the households and the businesses all along the way. But she was 90 when she died 2 years ago in January. And the picture that you're seeing with my sisters, that she's with my sisters, that is about 2 weeks before she died.
Right, right. You said that.
She was still putting the effort out. That was one of the things that she did. She always went out like she was, dressed to the kilt. She was a sort of a fashionista all along the way, and she always put her best foot forward. Um, her explanation was that she always wanted to make other people feel good.
Oh.
And she was extremely popular along the way. In high school, she was a cheerleader. She was a leader in a lot of ways, and she had her own business for about 40 years. She was a real estate salesperson, and she got it where she could sell on her own, and she did that for 40 years and is pretty well known here in Georgetown because most of her selling time was here. And it was as Georgetown was beginning to grow, just beginning to grow. And she and another lady in town who was a little bit before her were extremely well known because they were the main salespeople here in town when everything started growing. And so they were pretty well known. And so she was a remarkable woman.
Yeah.
And even at this stage where she was really, she knew she was about to die, but she was okay with it. I mean, she was a dyed-in-the-wool Christian, and she knew where she was going, and she was ready to see my dad. He had died quite a few years ahead of her. And somebody said something today, I think on Facebook, a friend said, your mother's looking down on you or something. And I said, well, my mother's probably not looking down on us. She doesn't have the time because she and dad are dancing to Bob Wills music. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, thanks, Janice. Thanks, Janice. Next up, Cindy. Another big family here, right? So this is Darcel and Tom's aunt and Cindy's mama, Laura Jane. You there, Cindy?
Cindy.
Cindy is on mute and off camera. She had her 1 minute of fame here. Maybe I'll come back. Somebody text her. Bonnie and Carol are on tonight.
Well, I can say Aunt Laura.
Oh, go ahead, Tom. Tom, you're good.
Aunt Laura was my sister. Darce and mine's dad's sister.
Darce and your dad's sister. Absolutely. All right.
She is still with us.
Good.
She's an amazing woman. 5 kids in the family, all girls. And it's funny because dad had all boys and me. Well, but Aunt Laura, anytime we went over to the house, she'd have a beer out for my dad. And Cindy would be out helping her dad in the barn, and she'd come in to say hi to Uncle Tom, and my dad would give Cindy a hard time. What are you on your break again? And pretty soon she'd hightail it back out to the barn to help her dad with the cows. But Aunt Laura was an amazing cook and baker. Oh, she could cook and she could bake. So love her.
All right. Thanks, Darcel. And then Bonnie and Carol, many of you, if you're here with us often, you see Bonnie and Carol are regulars, but this is Bonnie and her mother, Doris. Bonnie is the little one. That's a joke. Okay. Thank you, Janice. Janice got that. Thank you, Janice. Okay. And then Carol. And if you know Carol at all, I think Barb Crabtree today, when we saw this picture, she's like, do you think they look like twins, don't they? Almost exactly together. Let's see.
Do I need to let her in?
And Carly. Your mother looks like your sister, Carly. Can't hear you for some reason.
I said everybody says that until they see my dad. But yeah, this is my mom and I at
of our child. And my mom is the baby of 4 girls. Her oldest sister was 8. The next one was 15. The next one, they do have the same parents. They just kind of number 3 and they didn't want her to be by herself. So they had my mom to have a pal for her. And so she's really close with my dad's sisters who are, my dad's the oldest of 4. He's got 3 little sisters. And so every year they, in November, go to usually Reno and so when I turned 21,
Carly, I can't hear you hardly at all. Can you guys hear her?
I said when I turned 21, my auntie invited me to this ritual of gambling, drinking and smoking at the casino.
Someone's got to teach you.
Going on about 26 years of doing that now, so it's pretty fun. She's an awesome lady. She's funny. If you ever hear somebody say your mom's a pistol, trust them.
Oh, thank you, hon. Thank you. I'm thinking that's the last picture we have. Did anybody else send me a picture that I didn't get a hold of? I got a few more up here of you, Mom. I didn't do this one, right? I showed, this is all of us golfing. Mom is quite famous, not only for golfing and putting. This is glow ball, a game that you play in the pitch black, right? There's Anne, my sister-in-law, and Linda, Mom and I. You play in the complete black, in the dark, and balls are flying all over the golf course, and you can, they're all lit up. I don't know how it even works, it's magic. But Mom also, there's a famous video of Mom winning, I think, let's call it that, Anne, a pumpkin roll at a big famous charitable golf tournament here that we've had in the past, in the fall. You've seen that one? Here's a little bit of what Mom and Dad have created. This is again the airplane at my dad's celebration of life with my little brother, Linda, who's on tonight, Sandy, who lives in Dallas, and my big brother, firefighter here. There's the gang of us, and then we added a whole bunch of Canadians into her mom's 90th birthday, where she learned to, of all things, floss like this. Not right, Mom? Can you want to do that, Mom, tonight? You want to show folks how you can floss?
No, I draw the line.
Taught by her great grandson.
Great grandsons. And then if you know my mother, you know that she's a dog whisperer. And it doesn't matter who is the parent of the dog. If they're within my mom's reach for any period of time, look at that. She holds court with all these dogs, and I could give 20 pictures like this. Looks like here she's in the kitchen, which is obvious, and then in the living room at her famous chair. And this is Sabal, and she had quite a relationship at this point. This is on the great back deck, you heard, and clearly Sabal is having a relationship, talking with Mom about that sandwich that's sitting right there. Oh, but she's best friend to every dog. That is one of the things. We have issues with the Chippy this summer, Mom, but the fact that my dog, my new puppy, gets to grow up in Granny's house is that's just very special. Very special.
Granny's racetrack.
Most people just get to visit. And let's see, I think we did everybody's mom here, right? Yep, Ken, Janie Ann, Shirley. And Mom, the advice you gave to us, we've been chatting for like 3 days about this interview. I know we had to twist your arm to do it. But Cheryl, she talked about it all comes down to friends and family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Shirley and I are real alcoholics.
You just had one glass.
The kids always take fun of Shirley and I and shove a beer glass or a wine glass or something in our hands to make us look like the rest of the young folk.
Aw.
You always play along.
It works every time. Even the beer mitt that Ann had for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last bit of advice I think Cheryl, she gave us maybe you can tell the stories now, the last question that you had for her. But this is at a wedding that we went to many years ago. Remember that, Mom? That spray of flowers probably cost what Cheryl's and my wedding costs. But it was quite an extravagant 3-day affair. But you laughing hard like that, that's one of my favorite pictures of you, Mom. Just laughing away. Like God knows who you were talking to. But it's a favorite picture.
Around me, I don't think.
Well, either that or you were laughing by yourself, which is altogether possible as well.
I've done that.
Cheryl, you have a final Maryism, I think, to close us out with tonight.
Well, we could do a final Maryism, but I could also close out with something different that I didn't talk to you about.
Oh, and whatever. It's your show, hon.
That is just to say that I heard you, Ken, say that you were so grateful to have Tom's mom after your mom had passed and have her for your mom. And I just want to say the same with me. My mom passed several years ago, and now this is my mom. So
you're welcome.
Oh, so that's
cute.
Oh, Mama.
It's all very nice, and it's so special to me to have all my kids around on Mother's Day or every day. It doesn't have to be Mother's Day, just any day of the week. They pop in. Let's go to lunch, Mom. I'm in town. Let's go to lunch, Mom. It's just one of those things, they do. And we always go. I'm so fortunate that I have my health. I don't have my bones. My bones are all wore out, but I have my health. So I'm going to live on for a long time.
Yep.
Good for you. Yeah. Sounds like you've been a mom to many. You've been a mom to other women too.
My youngest just popped his head in right now.
Oh.
There you go.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, I'm sorry I got in this thing late, but hey, Mom.
Mama's home.
Mama's home. As any youngest would ever say out of a family of 5, hey, Mom, could you send me $40? Don't tell the others. Just slip me 40 in the mail. Don't tell anybody else.
Hold them all now.
That's the true baby. That's the baby of the family there.
I'll tell you,
Signature baby.
She had a teapot that she used to keep 40 bucks in pretty consistently. And when we were out of gas or out of diapers or out of money to buy those things, I should say, we'd sneak in and go to the teapot, and Dad never knew. Don't tell your dad.
All the time the kids were in school, no matter where they went, after I started to work, the kids were in school. Doug started to school, and then I went to work. Dad did not appreciate that. He said, no, as long as I put butter on the table, you're staying home. I said, Dad, Mike's in college. I'm going to work. So I did. And every day I'd put a $20 bill in the teapot. And so when the kids come in, they'd take a $20 bill out and leave an IOU. And I never know whether it went back in there or not. And I didn't keep track. They all knew. Even the grandsons, Granny. I said, where are you? I'm over on Division Street someplace and I don't have any gas. Can you bring me some gas? That's the grandsons, There's a lot of things you do. A mother does, every mother does, just because they've been asked. Okay.
All good. Thank you, Mom. We really appreciate you taking the time and doing it for us.
I wanted to tell you all, one of the stories that Cheryl's got written down here, it says, Mary, explain what you mean when you say a toot in the windstorm. Well, one day I was down at Canadian Lakes helping Linda move, and she had her daughter-in-law there, new baby, and we were picking apart everything we could think of to put in a box to go. She was coming up here to I don't know where I am, Cadillac. And so one day everybody's doing something different. And all of a sudden we're running around in each other's road. And I says, you know what, girls, we're just walking around here like a toot in the windstorm. I said, let's get busy. And Renee stopped dead in her tracks and she said, Mom, Linda, what did she say? And Linda says, she said a toot in the windstorm. And so that was an expression around here anymore. And anybody wants to be in a road doing something, they don't know what they're doing. Everybody's doing the same thing and getting no place. They say, well, there you are, running around like a toot in the windstorm.
I don't know what the Sam Hill you're talking about, Mom.
Pardon?
She's got a lot of those.
The one you got there.
Looking at promise.
Oh, another thing, I don't know how I can, Oh, when we were kids, we didn't go to the shower every morning like we do today. We go on a Saturday night and get in a big round tub in the middle of the kitchen. So that was how we had our bath or our shower or whatever, unless we were out in the woods someplace and go in the spring. But anyway, one day when we were all out playing, the neighbor kids, there must have been about 30 of us, all go to a movie that they would put on a Saturday before Christmas. Now this, I was a little kid. And so we'd all get together to go to the movie because we were going to get a little bag of candy with an orange in it. The town put this on for us. So one day one little kid she was a little bitty girl. She was really tiny for her age. But anyway, she come down and her brother was looking after her, or her sister and brother, I don't know. Anyway, she said, Mom, she can't come with us. She's got a dirty face. So her mom come running down, picked up her apron like you would, and she spit on it and she wiped that kid's face. We went to the movie.
So what's that called?
That's what's called, what is it?
A lick and a promise.
A lick and a promise. We had a lot of licks and promises when we were kids.
All right, I think we could probably talk all night.
We had all the licks and promises we need tonight.
And
But
probably enjoy it.
Story was really nice to listen to.
Everybody's, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody for sharing what you did. Yay.
Sharing what you learned, sharing lessons, sharing memories. And I will close us up. There's a thing I found just the other day, and it was kind of reminded me, for those of us who are moms aren't here right now, who have passed. Let's see here, I'm sorry. Can't seem to get it up right. But it said that, can you see that? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother is always with you. She's the whisper of the leaves as you walk down the street. She's the smell of certain foods you remember, flowers you pick, the fragrance of life itself. She's the cool hand on your brow when you're not feeling well. She's your breath in the air on a cold winter's day. She's the sound of the rain that lulls you to sleep, the colors of a rainbow. She is Christmas morning. Your mother lives inside your laughter. She's the place you came from, your first home. And she's the map you follow with every step you take. She's your first love, your first friend, even your first enemy. But nothing on earth can separate you. Not time, not space, and not even death.
Wow, that's great.
Isn't that nice? It's always tough in the church, when we do think about celebrating Mother's Day, because not everyone has had the blessing of a great mom. Hopefully in people's lives, there have been other people who have stepped into that role, right? You don't need to be biologically related to be a mom and to have those great memories. So thank you for celebrating my mom, who is still here with us. And I hope her stories bring stories of your moms, be they here, be they across that rainbow bridge. be they celebrating and dancing with the person they loved for so many years, right? But we just wanted to take a little bit of time and tell some stories, and show some pictures. Cheryl, thank you so much for doing this for us. Your mother was one of the most beautiful and amazing and full of life people, and a great competitive wine drinker that I will ever know. And she was also a joy for me to be able to call her mom. So thank you tonight for doing the work you do. Linda and I, who live in this pod with Cheryl and Mom, know that Cheryl and Mom indeed are best friends. And then we're the other side of the table. Oh, love you all. Thanks for coming out tonight. And we'll see you again. Thanks for coming on
Thank
Tuesdays.
you.
Judy, great to see you
Thank you
again.
all.
We're here every Tuesday. Love you all.
Take care.
Come back and visit.
Thank you.
Night,
Okay,
night.
I'm coming.